Hey guys, these are your second to last notes for the entire year, and they're pretty quick. 9.3 is on composite figures. So a composite figure is made up of simple shapes like triangles, rectangles, trapezoids, and circles. So basically you're going to be finding the area of bits and pieces, and then using the area addition postulate, which says the area of a region is equal to the sum of the areas of its non-overlapping parts. So like this B down here is really easy to see that this shape is made up of a triangle here, a rectangle here, and then a half circle here. And this formula or postulate says that if we find the area of the triangle, the rectangle, and the circle and add them all up, that totals the area of the entire shape. So let's start with a little easier one. And for some people, cutting this, it's going to look a little different, but you should still be able to find the area of the shaded region regardless. So when I see this, I want to chop this guy right here so that I end up with this rectangle here plus another rectangle here. Now we got to make sure that we have enough information to find the area of each of the rectangles. So let's just talk about this red one for a second. This one's pretty easy. If we take it out of here, it's 21 by 15. And remember, for a rectangle, all you got to do is multiply base times height. So this rectangle has an area of 315 centimeters squared. And now this blue one here is a little harder to figure out, but if we do some minor subtraction, we can figure out what we're working with. So it tells me that this little part right here is 12, but I know this whole thing is 21. So if I subtract those two, I get that this part here has to be 9. And then I can do the same thing with this length down here. If I know the whole thing's 27 and this guy's 15, if I cut the 15 out of the 27, that will give me that this part down here is 12. And then this blue rectangle has an area of 108 centimeters squared. So now to find the area of this total weird looking L, all I got to do is add those two things together. So we end up with a total of 223 centimeters squared. And we're done. So now B is a little harder just because of the shapes, but we can still approach it the same way. For the triangle, let's talk about that one first. The area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. And remember, your base and your height have to be perpendicular to each other. So they don't really give us either of those things, but we can easily find the height. If we're looking here, I know this entire distance is 7.8. and this part here is 3. So if I subtract them, I get that this has to be 4.8. Now unfortunately it does not give us this length right here, but because it gives us this, we can use Pythagorean Theorem to figure out what that distance has to be. So if we do Pythagorean Theorem, let's do it over here so we have a little room. 4.8 squared plus this base squared has to equal 10.2 squared. We can throw it into our calculator. And we'll do 10.2 squared minus 4.8 squared. And we get 81. And when we take the square root of that, we get that the base has to be 9. So now I have enough information to use my formula. I'll do 1/2 times 9 times 4.8. And when we throw that in the calculator, we end up with the area of the triangle is 21.6 feet squared. So that's just the little triangle part. The rectangle proved to be a little easier because we already found part of it that we need, and they give us part of it. So they give us that this part's 3, and then remember it shares this side with the triangle that we just found, which was 9. So this guy has an area of 27 feet squared. That one was nice and easy. And then the last one we have is the circle here. Now it's a half a circle, so we got to remember that the area of a circle is pi r squared, but we're going to cut whatever we get in half because we don't want an entire circle. So in order to do that, we need the radius. So I know they didn't straight up give us the radius, but remember the radius goes from like here to here. So if we know this entire length is 9, our radius has got to be 4.5. So we're running out of room. But let's see, we'll do pi times 4.5 squared and take whatever we get there and chop it in half. So 4.5 squared gives us 20.25. We'll multiply that by pi. And then we'll take that 63.6 and chop it in half. So our circle's about 31.8. And now one thing I would double check is make sure that all of your areas are around the same size. They all kind of look around the same size. If you got one that was like 300 and something, you'd know you did it wrong. So to find the area of the total shape, let's add them up. 31.8 plus 27 plus 21.6. We end up with a total of 80.4 feet squared for this weird looking shape. Now these guys are a little different, but not too much, and the only difference is instead of adding some areas together, we're going to subtract some areas. So if we take a look at this first one, we'll start off nice and easy. If I just gave you this rectangle here, you should be able to tell me the area by just multiplying base times height. So 18 times 36 will be the area of this entire red shape right here. So 18 times 36 gives you 648. But unfortunately, I do not want that entire red shape. I want that red shape minus this triangle right here. So what we need to do is find the area of this blue triangle and subtract it from 648. So I like my triangles this way. This guy is my height, and it is 9. And then remember the area formula for a triangle, we just did it, is 1/2 base times height. So I not only need the height, but I need the length of this base right here. And because this is a rectangle, I know it's 36. So then this just becomes something to plug in your calculator. 1/2 of 9 times 36. And we end up with 162. So remember, I just want the shaded region. This is what I'm looking for here. So I'm going to take 648 and take away 162. And we end up with the shaded region being 486 meters squared. Last problem. We're going to approach it the same way. So if we forget that these little circles are cut out, let's find the area of this rectangle here. Remember, rectangles are base times height. So this whole black shape is going to be 16 times 33. No cutting it in half. I'm just going to multiply it together, and we get that whole shape as 528 feet squared. But now we want to chop out these two half circles. So because they're both half circles, we're really taking an entire circle out of this. So remember, the area of a circle is pi r squared. So the only thing we need is a radius. And I know they don't explicitly give it to you, but you know this whole distance is 16 right here, which is your diameter. So that means your radius has to be 8. So we'll plug it in. Pi times 8 squared. So 64 times pi will give us about 201.1-ish feet squared. Now usually we would cut that in half, like if only this thing was taken a bite out of, we would cut it in half, but since we have two of them, we have an entire circle that we need to subtract. So just like the last one, we're going to take 528 and take away 201.1. And you will end up with an area of about 326.9 feet squared. So I'm going to leave you 2 problems to do on your own. Make sure you type in the answers and hit submit so I can give you a grade for them. Write down any questions you have and we can go over them when I get back. Enjoy your day.